Handel's Oratorios. Now that you know something about the oratorio, let's see how this genre fit into Handel's career in England. Handel spent approximately 4 years in England, and during that time he worked as an impresario, so his work and his fortunes were tied to the musical taste of the time. And when we take a look at Handel's career in England, we are essentially taking a look at English musical fashions from the 1720s to 1759. So let's effect a comparison between the two halves of Handel's career in England in terms of their approximate dates, the focus on genre within each of them, and the emphasis within genres within each of those halves. So I'm going to ask you to create a table that shows the two halves of Handel's career in England and compare each of these things within it. The first half of Handel's career in England runs from approximately the 1720s to the early 1740s. It's about a 2-decade period, and during this time he focused on writing the type of genre that was in style at the time, Italian opera. And when he wrote such operas, the emphasis within them was on da capo arias. In fact, we have taken a look at one of Handel's Italian operas, and we've taken a look at one of the da capo arias within it, so it should be very easy for you to remember these details in connection with the first half of Handel's career in England. During the second half of Handel's career in England, from the early 1740s through 1759, Italian opera was no longer in fashion. In fact, Handel was dead flat broke at the beginning of the 1740s because of all the money that he lost trying to stage Italian operas during the first couple years of that decade. He then turned his attention to another genre, the oratorio, and composing and producing such works allowed him to regain all that he had lost and more when Italian opera had gone out of fashion. And when Handel composed oratorios, he put the emphasis in these compositions not on the da capo arias, yes, there were da capo arias in such compositions, but rather he put his emphasis on the choruses in these compositions. So we shall pay especial attention to the details of Handel's choruses in his oratorios. Handel's oratorio choruses are extremely detailed compositions, and it's very easy to see that he lavished a great deal of attention on them. They fit the definition that we have used for the Renaissance madrigal, the Venetian polychoral motet, and for the Baroque opera chorus. That is, they have a variety of textures and lots of word and text painting in them. Handel's oratorio choruses, in fact, provide a stunning array of textures, including the simplest of them, monophony. Now, I know it may seem a bit unusual that a composer would turn to the simplest musical texture there is, monophony, but in actual practice, this texture turns out to be highly dramatic when you use it within the context of a polyphonic composition. In a monophonic textures, all the voices and the instruments are singing or sounding the same notes at the same time, and it sounds as though they're shouting out the words or the music in these passages. It's very, very emphatic, very dramatic, and Handel is not the only composer to realize how useful this texture is. You will see this as soon as we hear two Handel choruses from his oratorios. The other textures are well represented as well. There are plenty of passages in homophony, that kind of texture in which all the voices move more or less together, they lose their individual identities, and they seem to blend into one and the same sound. There is a nice clear example of antiphony in one of the Handel oratorio choruses that we shall hear. That musical texture that involves passing the music from one group of performers to another, that type of musical texture that produces an echo effect, as well as passages in free imitation, that texture in which the voices enter one at a time and then go on their way. Also, there are sections that don't fit into any of these categories, and we simply call them free polyphony. The fact that Handel lavished a great deal of care on his choruses is evident in that a number of these compositions even contain full fugal expositions, that is, very easily recognizable subjects and counter-subjects presented systematically in all of the voices. When you hear a Handel oratorio chorus, one of the things that's impressive about it is this incredible variety of textures. So remember that when Handel wrote his oratorios, that he lavished most of his attention on the choruses.